Here we are again, ladies. It is day 11 of our fast, and we are still winning. I have a very interesting approach for us today. I'm actually going to read to you from the story of Cinderella. I was sitting with my daughter last night, and I was reading her this bedtime story, and the Holy Spirit gave me a revelation through the story. And with that said, I want to remind you all, because I've been reading your Facebook posts and your texts and your emails and your tweets, and I just want to remind all of us to be sure that we're not being so quick in how we're expecting the Holy Spirit to speak to us. He can speak through all sorts of resources, so think it not strange. He actually spoke to me through this book. So let me pick up where he really spoke to me through this story. It's actually when Cinderella had gotten her gown all together, and if you remember the story, the mice helped her get her gown together, and her stepsisters came in and ripped the gown apart. So she ran into the garden, and she tried to remember her sweet dreams, but she didn't think they would ever come true. Her animal friends had never seen her so sad. "There's nothing left to believe in. Nothing," Cinderella sobbed. She didn't notice the lights that twinkled and danced all around her, but Jacques and Gus did. They could hardly believe their eyes. The lights turned into a kind-looking woman. The woman patted Cinderella's head. She said, "You must believe in something, or I couldn't be here. And here I am. So dry your tears." In that moment, reading to my 5-year-old, she was just hearing the story of Cinderella, and she smiled to herself, and she continued to think about all the great things that were to come for Cinderella. But when the Holy Spirit spoke to me, he actually reminded me that I must believe in something, that he was indeed there with me. So as my daughter just recalled this story and continued to think about what great things lay ahead of Cinderella, the Holy Spirit reminded me of what great things lay ahead of me too in this season of consecration. I'm here to remind you what great things lay ahead of you, that even if you feel like you're failing, even if you're feeling like you're not doing all the things that he's calling you to, you must believe in something, or else he wouldn't be there, and he is there. There are a couple of things I want to encourage you to think about as we continue moving forward. I got lost for a minute in the reason why we're doing this. I have a confession to make. I know I told you guys this was not about the fat, this wasn't about the food, that it was about the faith, and I know that to be true. And yet I still got on the scale, and as I didn't see those numbers changing in the direction I wanted them to go in, I found myself feeling like a failure. And I found myself thinking about the fat. And then I started seeing all of your texts and tweets and encouraging posts coming through. And some of you are really just doing the work and excited. And I started thinking, well, Lord, now look, I cannot show up September 1st and have these women looking great. And I'm looking like this. And so he reminded me of a couple of very important things. He said, okay, this is a season of consecration, daughter. I told you that. But here's what this is about for you, because I need you to focus on running the race I've placed you in, not someone else's race. He said this season for you is about exposure to new resources, new things, new ways of doing things. You've done this an old way before. I want to expose you to new ways so that you can get this done the right way, my way. He also said this is not just about exposure, it's about exposing. It's about exposing new instruments to you, not enemies. It's also about exposing areas of weakness to you that come from within, that have been hidden from you. So I was looking for him to show me things to stop. I wanted to dive into this fast and immediately stop doing this, even though I told you, he said, for some of us, he would tell us to start doing stuff. Yeah, he did. He told me to start reading, start informing myself, start educating myself. So instead of letting a whole bunch of stuff out, he's had me take a lot of things in. So there are a lot of new resources that he's had me take in to learn about. If he's doing that to you, stay encouraged. He's also been exposing me to some things. One of the biggest things that he's been telling me I need to do is to die to self. See, he reminded me, especially on my vacation last week, that this really wasn't about me. And he gave me some scriptures to share with you. Mark 8:35, for whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. And John 12:24, truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. So in this consecration season, this is what I'm doing. I'm dying to self. When I sat there and thought about how I might stand in front of you all and not be the svelte figure that I had hoped I was going to be, God reminded me that you are dying to self. This was never about you, daughter. It's always been about Him. I want you all to remember that and stay encouraged by that. And as long as we do that, and we're willing to do that daily, on a daily basis, die to self, know this, there is no way we can lose, because in that, we always win. Y'all know this. We win.